We started out thinking about designs for making the invisible visible, like things that are microscopic, making them large, and thinking about the ecosystem in unusual ways that would bring design ideas to the house.
We're in the process of working on interior finishes. We're about to start putting the plaster on the inside. We're working on the cabinets.
Why go and harvest new when there is all this beautiful salvage material available to be used?
What happens when a builder and an artist-scientist set out to change the way we make houses by gathering together a collaborative group of artisans to build themselves a low carbon footprint home? CarbonShack.
It ties into the other motifs, right? There's still this kind of bone-like skeletal quality component that's to the piece, but this light's coming through it, you know?
Wow, that's totally unusual. This one just looks like a Tiffany lamp, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's so many of them that do.
Our custom decorative light fixtures are all based on organic forms. We've worked with a local artist in sculpture.
It has always humbled me, this synergy between the geometries that we find on these microscopic levels and how then you'll see them on these macroscopic levels, you know, from an atom to, you know, a nebula, and the relationships between these two things despite their massive size differences.
Ideally, it'd be great that like you're having control over the density of these different components, which is feasible. Like there can be an electronic pack that's incorporated into the chandelier that handles different components.
We have a large chandelier that's in the process of construction that's inspired by Medusa jellyfish.
Jellyfish is referencing climate change, right?
The seas are getting warmer. Where other species are dying off, we're having a whole lot of jellyfish and squid.
Well, it's also the explosion of some of these gigantic jellyfish because of rise of ocean temperatures. You're seeing this overpropagation of.
So we need to find ways of cooking and eating them. To be practical.
We live in a critical time of climate change. We have very minimal consciousness about that in the construction industry, but we have to make that a part of the conversation. There's a lot of information out there about how to build sustainably, how to build green, and yet in Los Angeles, an area with wealth and an area with knowledge, and we only have 36 homes that either pass at house standard or LEED. That's a problem.
It seems so obvious to us when we think about electric cars and thinking about automobiles becoming greener as the grid becomes greener, but we don't put it together with houses in the same way.
So what we're trying to do is develop these new approaches, test market them. For example, it's saving carbon by salvaging building materials and reusing them. The salvage framing came from the house that we deconstructed in Pico Union. Out of that project, we also got a lot of 1x roof sheeting that we then used for flooring. Some of the interior wall framing was 2x3s, so a little bit smaller. We couldn't use that for framing lumber now. So the smaller pieces we then cut into the parquet floor in the main area. Also, some of the cutoffs and small items of Douglas fir we saved to mill into cabinetry in the laundry and the master bath. Normally, a piece of lumber under 4 feet you would throw out, but instead of throwing it out, we saved it and we made cabinets out of it. This is all going to be redwood paneling, wall and ceiling redwood paneling. That whole bedroom, yeah. We bought a bridge that was being salvaged in Northern California. An old bridge that was used by a lumber company was no longer needed. And that beautiful old redwood we cut into millwork for the master bedroom and also the upper cabinets in the kitchen. The plan for the kitchen is we're going to do an island here, and that's going to be out of the reclaimed mahogany out of that church, and it's going to be carved panels.
They have taken all this material from a church and they're going to be reusing it in the home. There's a slight curve to it. So as we sand it through the planer, we're going to be taking off the finish that is on both sides of this material and making it to a consistent thickness so that we can mill the product completely and fully and make doors and panels and cabinet face frames and everything. Now that we've milled it all, it is ready to go. So we took a 1/4 inch off the whole thing. Having recycled materials, you have to appreciate, the imperfections that are probably in it with the nail holes and stuff. And there's a history behind something that you knew it was recycled into something else. And how beautiful is that when you go like, that was a church and now it's my kitchen. I think there's some bragging rights with that. But of course, it takes more work to take this, to put it into something, to make something out of it.
Se iba a soltar también, mira. ¿Te fijas cómo está suelto? Pues no hay problema. Ya poniendo el frame, ahorita lo que sigue, no va a haber problema. Con la madera esta usada reciclable. Astilla fácilmente, se quiebra, tengo que tener cuidado.
You can't really make mistakes with it because there's a limited amount, so it's just everything that you got to do, you got to pay attention, make sure you're making all the cuts right. You're trying to reserve as much of it as you can because, you might need it later on.
If you look at all these nails, we have to painstakingly take out every one of these nails because you can't run that through any saw. It get real expensive every time you have to change the blades to deal with it. Oh, this has got termites in it. When we surface this, you'll get the tracks of where they were, and what's pretty neat about it, when you clean it up, you'll get to see that, and it totally adds to the character of the material.
By looking at the building structure itself and what goes into the building, we're looking for more ways of being green. For example, using less manufactured material and more of a natural material, so you're supplementing it. Sometimes it can be an old solution that turns out has a really green purpose to it.
Most of the grass we get it from that area,
Down there, yeah.
but I noticed that there's some gold since the seasons are changing. I think this is the best time to go and collect more. So we have enough for this large house.
There was this wonderful conversation one day where Charlie and Alfonso were just talking, and then Alfonso was like, yeah, there's this old technique, my father taught me where we would just use grass and we would add that to the plaster finish. And I was like, oh my God, this is a traditional green solution.
This true, it says way back in my childhood days, basically it's growing up in Mexico, seeing all these textures on the adobe houses, Queremos que el terminado tenga un look como lo fue antes, que es wavy, ¿verdad? Un poquito de olas. Lo que en plaster le llamamos freehand. El diseño y los rasgos del trao de la llana son mayores que en esta área. Por lo tanto, cuando tengamos el terminado, aquí va a quedar un poquito más liso y aquí va a empezar a hacer una ondulación. Todo este tipo de textura que dejamos nos va a crear el efecto de que esta pared tiene un movimiento.
There's a certain amount of material you need to cover the wall, so now some of that will be this grass rather than a industrially made product.
The components to apply this type of plaster, I was going more towards the king cement and the lime and the sand, but then you find these materials.
Yeah, the main difference is it has to spend less time getting fired in the kiln, so you use less energy to heat the kiln, so it ends up having a lower carbon footprint.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So what kind of material are we talking about?
One of the things I thought would be really cool is as these tentacles are coming through, some of these tentacles are made out of bent steel rod. Some of the more gentle curvatures are more subtle, but those are actually steel tube. And inside the steel tube, we run fiber optics through it. Out the bottom is a lens. And here is another ring illuminator where we could have LEDs. So those tubes come up and they pick up the light here, but then you have these little points of light down here.
Because we're going direct manufacturing, it's called. There's a reduction of mold making, transportation, and money incurred in shipment, so forth, because we're able to produce them quite locally on large format machines. But there's a lot less waste and fumes involved in the manufacturing process. And also with the LED illuminators that we've constructed for this, one of the benefits is they're LEDs, so they're much more energy conservative than traditional light fixtures.
It's been really amazing to learn about all the materials and how to fabricate from the ground up. That's been interesting, and then to think about how much energy goes into each part of the house.
By using salvaged lumber, we save 42 kilograms of carbon dioxide from being released into the atmosphere.
If we built all that flooring with new hardwood, it would be about half a ton of carbon. With reclaimed hardwood, we were able to bring that down to 0.2 tons.
That's equivalent to the carbon savings of not driving a car for 500 miles.
Even though it's a brand new building, I feel there's a lot of history in that building because of all the salvage material that we used.
So it's like history reinventing itself.
It's transformation, metamorphosis. It's pretty beautiful.
If every American just replaced their 5 most frequently used light bulbs from incandescent to LED, we'd be saving the same carbon emissions that 6 million cars on the road have.
The plaster wall is great as well. I love that.
Yeah, the whole thing is just warm. It's organic. I don't know why. It makes me feel like it's a bit of a tree house.
Plants play a super important role in our history.
We wanted to make sure that those ideas, that the house continues to be a living thing, became a part of the finishes.
Something that we don't usually think about. We wanted to bring it into the house as a visual motif.
Let's put this in the tile. What kind of furniture can we make to express this idea of the interconnectedness of our houses with the environment?